This episode of The Unstarving Musician is sponsored by Magic Mind. I struggle to keep my energy level steady, especially in the afternoon. I love coffee, but try not to drink it after 10:30 in the morning. Consistently creating new podcast episodes, subscriber emails, videos, and new music requires a lot of focus. Thank goodness I found Magic Mind. I've decided it's the perfect afternoon fix for my energy focus needs. Magic Mind has a short list of high-quality ingredients that will intrigue and likely benefit you. I think matcha may be the difference for me. Matcha is basically nature's extended release version of caffeine, and I really like the taste of Magic Mind. I felt good after taking it, and I'm not even good at taking supplements. I encourage you to check it out, especially if you struggle to stay focused on some days. Starting in January, you will find it in Sprouts Farmers Market stores across the country. If you have a Sprouts store nearby, get down there and grab a few bottles to try. After you're hooked, you can get a subscription with up to 50% off with my discount code. Just visit magicmind.com/TUM, like the Unstarving Musician, and use discount code TUM20. That's with the number 20. Again, visit magicmind.com/TUM. Use discount code TUM20 to get up to 50% off of Magic Mind. This is The Unstarving Musician. I'm Rabanzo. This is my podcast. It features conversations with independent music artists and industry professionals with occasional special topic episodes featuring yours truly. A glimpse into the minds of my varied guests, all intended to help independent music artists better understand the marketing, business, and creative processes that empower us to do more of what we love. Make music. Welcome to another episode. How are you doing? What are you wearing? Where are you? It's a pleasure, an absolute pleasure to be on your speakers or in your earbuds today, so thank you for being here with me. The end of the year is literally staring us in the face, is it not? Yeah, the holidays are upon us. I just got back from travel to the States. I think I brought back some upper respiratory crud with me. That's not good, but I think rest is going to do me okay. Yeah, I went to Dallas-Fort Worth and to Salt Lake City. A business holiday party thing took me and the wife to Salt Lake City. I like that town. It's pretty nice. There are some quirky things about it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not going to mention any organizations, but it's a really lovely town. They've got some great microbreweries there. Fun place. And DFW, well, those are my people, family, friends. Got a lot of them there. I took some coffee from Querétaro to some good friends there so we could experience the joys of pressed coffee in their home. That was great. And oh, by the way, if you're a coffee drinker like me, you need to visit the Unstarving Musician store at unstarvingmusician.com/shop because I have some coffee mugs there and I have a new bit of merchandise about to roll out for the holidays. So check it out. Get there soon. You'll see it. Miss Velvet is my guest for this episode. That's right, Miss Velvet. She channels vocal styles like Janis, Joplin, and Robert Plant into a unique sound that comes through loud and clear on her new solo album, Traveler. The New York native has performed in over 100 cities worldwide, including an opening tour for George Clinton. That's pretty freaking cool. She's entered a new stage in life and career. A new stage in life and career. As a mother, she's got a changed outlook now on life and a fresh sense of style. Miss Velvet is well known for her sense of fashion and performance style, making her a throwback gift to rock and roll. Yep, I wrote that. Really, I think she is. If you like rock, if you like voices like Janis Joplin and Robert Plant, you should check her out. She's on all the streaming platforms. You can also find her at officialmissvelvet.com. We talk about her new solo album, Childhood in New York, George Clinton, meditation, working with producer Esjay Jones, fashion inspiration, Led Zeppelin, and more. Again, check her out at officialmissvelvet.com. Please enjoy this conversation with me and Miss Velvet. You and the band, the folks you're working with, just dropped a record days ago. Traveler, congratulations.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's a freshie. It's in, as I say, my baby has left the coop.
And now the work begins, right?
and now the work begins. Yeah, so just days off of that release and album release party out here in LA, which was super fun. And yeah, she's out in the world and she's doing her thing.
Nice. Tell me about the release party and the planning, and did you have some help? How did it go?
So I recently moved from New York about like 2 years ago. Now being out here and finishing the record out here in Cali, I really wanted to kind of start the foundation building of that LA audience. And I did that for many years in New York, where I got with the venue that kind of really believed in us, and they started giving us residencies and things like that. And I found this really great group out here. It's called Desert Five Spot, and it's kind of like in LA. It's like an LA hotspot. And they heard me sing one time with my other boys, and we got passed along through the booker. And he was like, "Listen, I totally get this. This rock and roll scene out here is thriving, and let's put you on. Let's start doing a residency here, and let's build that LA fan base with you, and like we'll get behind you." So that was really cool that that venue was like, we are behind this, and they gave me that album release party. And I think what's really cool about that venue particularly is that they kind of can put on three bands a night, and there's no ticket sales. So I kind of think when you're breaking in a new territory, it's like that booker is really responsible for putting the right acts together. And they're the ones that are really responsible for filling that room with you and getting like the right eyes and tastemakers on it. So I was so fortunate to have these guys like really believe in the record and my sound. And so it was really like a joint effort, but it was awesome. It was really awesome. Great turnout, great vibe, great energy, and I love what they're about too. So
And
yeah.
did you have other bands on the bill with you that night, or was it all you?
So we did. So he was like, I have this crazy idea. He's like, this other girl, Jamie Wyatt, who's kind of blowing up on the Americana country scene. She's doing her album release. And he's like, and we know her very well. And why doesn't she do it as well? So let's do a double bill. So it was just really cool that, no egos, and it's kind of like, let's just get as many people in that room, even from different genres, that might dig this. And it was just like a wild fucking party, and we had a great turnout. So I like that approach a lot, and I did it in New York that way with a couple venues, and it just really worked. It was like that's really how I kind of got my footing, and then from that was able to like lock on major tours. But I think it was also just part of having people believe in you when you're on the ground here and you're breaking something new.
Yeah, I just spoke with a dynamic duo from Texas. I know one
Yeah.
of them quite well, but
Oh,
they
cool.
they just launched a new band somewhat recently anyway. And
Yeah.
for them, I mean, he's very well. They're both kind of established as solo artists, but they really they had some support, but they did a lot of work on their own to make a beautiful launch party, and they got a local label interested in them and signed them, which was great. It was a huge success. But it sounds like you were fortunate enough to have like a big supporter, a very important supporter right there to kind of help make it happen. You and the other artist that was with you, right?
Yeah, and it was, I mean, that's awesome, by the way, for that other band. That's just, it's so cool. However, you kind of, because it's honestly, it's tough out there. It's
Yeah.
like kind of whatever you can do to kind of break that initial, breaking the ceiling, as I say. And especially it's like I had stuff previously going on, and like coming off of like a 2-year world tour with George Clinton and Parliament Funkadelic with my previous band, and then coming out here, post pandemic, and honestly starting over. And I think it was really scary at times, but locking into the right group of people, that, and you got to get lucky obviously, that believe in it, but that the music is good enough for them to kind of put their stamp on it and take a chance on you, was very, I'm blessed, and I'm so glad that those guys did. And we're gonna keep going for them now. And I always see them like, I do see venues or bookers or people that get behind bands in the beginning, and then you see like when they've blown up and they come through town, and they come back to those like local haunts, and it's really cool. It's like, it's a very cool family dynamic thing if you keep it like that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm always curious to ask people this question. I do want to talk about a couple things you mentioned, but I want to back up and ask you about your childhood in the New York area and your family. Just whatever you can share would be fun to know.
Yeah. So born and bred New Yorker. I think that city has a way of beating you down and building you up simultaneously. And I loved every moment of both sides of that. I think it definitely made me who I am and gave me that grit and gave me that persistence and resilience. And someone the other day said, you're kind of stubborn. And I was like, maybe it's just doggedness for something you really believe in or want. But I love that city with all my heart, and it gave me my foundation and musical foundation, and was in a lot of like school choirs, and I went to band camps, and then came out here 2 years ago post pandemic with a new baby and freshly married and wanting to start over, and I'm on my way.
Yeah. Your folks still live out there?
You know what? I begged my mom to give up her place in New York, and so she moved literally 7 minutes from me, and that has been the greatest blessing because kind of the first year and a half, like writing this record and being in that vortex and bubble, and she knows what's coming now. It's like going to get back out on the road. There's nothing like having your mom where everything is good on the home base, and my husband's so loving and supportive. So I mean, it does take a village, but I'm so lucky she came out here. So I'm like, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. Do you have siblings or your dad out there or anything?
I
Any
have
other family?
my dad passed away when I was about 13 years old. So that was kind of a big life moment to kind of navigate through. And I do have a sister, and I feel like whenever we're having one of those moments where we're like, we just want our dad to see what we're doing or see our kids. And I think it's powerful to, my sister and I maybe WhatsApp 100 times a day, knowing that there's like another person in this world. I'm so connected to my sister where she just knows, hey, you having one of those days? I'm like, yup. And we can just tap into whatever that is. But I think it's losing my dad at that age was, I don't think I really understood what was happening then. And then as I got older and older, I think it's always been something that's almost like that North Star in any of my body of work, to be able to kind of tap into those feelings. And I think on this record, he definitely came through on a couple moments. So it's definitely one of those things that, yes, it's very present and all encompassing, but I think it definitely shaped again my character and who I am.
Yeah, that's got to be hard at that age. And is your sister close to you in age?
My sister's 18 months apart from me, so we're like Irish twins. So it's and I see, I have two girls now and they're 18 months apart. So my mom's like, yep, that was me. Like, so I know I know those girls would be super close right now. They're literally pulling each other's hair and pushing each other down. But now I see, the relationship my sister and I have now is just, it's magnificent.
That's great. How old are your girls now?
So I have two under 2.5.
Wowza.
Yowza. So it's basically full throttle starting at 6 a.m. But we're doing it. We're doing it. We're out here doing it.
Yeah, well, you clearly have a lot of energy from the little bit I've learned about you. All right, let's touch on the whole George Clinton thing. So I gathered kind of
Yeah.
how it came about, but I'm curious to know what you learned from him or what you learned from that tour that you just the thing that you came away with.
I think the thing that impacted me the most was every night that man got on stage with his band, he was ready to put on a show, no matter what the circumstance was. And sometimes we would be in some pretty crazy circumstances. I mean, I remember one time we had to jump on this cruise ship, and just everything was going wrong. Like sound was going out, like it was just whatever was going wrong, lighting, it was moving, like things were moving on. It was just crazy. And the minute he walked out on stage, he honestly jumped off the stage and just went into the audience, and like the sound was better out there. And he just was always able to bring it home. And no matter what it was, and that sound went out, they did this crazy a cappella thing. And I think he was just ready to go at any moment and knew that he could pull out, from his bag of tools, anything, and not be afraid to do that. So that was kind of something that stuck with me, which is like, people are there to see a show, and whatever it is, if the muse is not coming down that night, you need to find it, figure it out, shift, pivot, move with it. And that kind of just became, again, a touchstone for me that I've carried through all my performances. But seeing a man like that, and I can only imagine in his height, but at 78 years old, pulling out those stops night after night after night, no matter what the circumstance was like excellence. So I took that. That's kind of the biggest thing I took from him.
That's a great thing to take. And it must be really awesome for your fans, because it seems to me that you've been a bundle of energy on stage anyway, and you're just like that type of performer. So is the inner dialogue or the visuals that you use to say, all right, get up, do this, come on, shake out of it?
It's funny, that's a great question. And before I go on stage, I personally have, a little mantra that I do. And I'm a big visualization person and meditation person. And you'll find me like in a bathroom stall, and I'm like going into this space. And I kind of make sure that I'm always, I kind of say, just, I'm not going to go through the whole mantra, but there's two things that I say, and I'm paraphrasing, but it's like, whatever is out there, let me be able to tap into it, and please let the circulatory motion continue. And I think what I mean by that is, I feel like when we're really in a groove, the audience and the performer, is there's this current, and it feels like a circulatory motion where they're giving, I'm giving, they're giving, I'm giving. Now, like you said, sometimes that's not happening, and I think that's where, as an artist, you go into that place of, okay, I do this for the love of, and for myself, being on stage, and whatever's inside, I would like for that to come out. And I think when I stay really true to that, and just focus in on like listening to the musicians, or remembering that, like, I fucking love what I do here, man. Like I love giving what I have inside. And if it's turned out like that, I always feel like at the end of every show, you're just like, okay, that's what I do. I love what I do. So yeah, I mean, I'm a big, I definitely go into my mantra, but I think the visualization thing too is something that's been really important to me. And I kind of started it about like 6 years ago, kind of on my, we're taking a veering turn, but sobriety journey. And that really was helpful. The visualization thing I've used for all those George shows I was on, like 150 shows night after night after night. It's almost like what an athlete does too. So I kind of was taking the performance route even to kind of an athletic event of being able to go out night after night and not only deliver for myself and the fans, but deliver for George. So it kind of felt like there were some bigger things that I was wanting to deliver for. And I like that pressure.
Mm-hmm. Did you learn the visualization techniques that you're using these days through recovery, or was it something else that came as a sidebar in life?
I used it a bit. I understood some of it through recovery. And I was working with this incredible woman. And they do this work. It's called IFS work, where you can kind of go into each of your body parts and kind of see what you're feeling. And usually in those areas, and I kind of did this with the death of my father, And it became a very important tool for me. And so that's kind of why before stage, I'm going into my body, like, where does it feel? Like, do I feel too airy, like not enough grounded in my feet? And if that's kind of what I'm feeling, then I'm going to tap into that. So, yes, great question. Again, I've used that definitely like 7 years now. And I find it so cool to be able to use it in performance and then use it to kind of understand my feelings and everything through sobriety and my dad. It's kind of like these 3 points on a triangle, and they're so, you asking that question, I haven't really even thought of it like that, but they're so intertwined and really special.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a nice trick, a nice skill, a nice habit that you've taken it onto the
Yeah.
stage. Like I'm familiar with that technique through, I believe she's Buddhist. Yeah, Tara Brach. She does a
Oh
kind of a
wow.
meditation
I'm,
podcast, which
I'm
is,
writing that down.
yeah, she's got
Okay.
a book I've not read, but it's so highly spoken of.
Laura Brock.
I'll have
Okay.
to remember. Maybe I'll send the name through your
I'll be
publicist.
emailing you.
Yeah, yeah. It sounds like something you might like, and
Yeah.
but anyway, I what I was gonna say is that I've only ever made an effort at using that technique when I'm feeling kind of, unbalanced or upset or
Right.
just or the inner voices are a little too loud. But I've never thought
Right.
of being able to take that in a moment of like going to perform, which I think would be really helpful. I mean, I just days ago performed at a festival where I live with a visiting blues artist, and it
Oh,
wasn't my
good.
best night. It might have been cool to be able to do that before I went on.
Yeah. Well, you know what I find too is it's, you do that, and then the minute you walk out on stage, you're like, okay, now here's the abandonment, right? So you want to let go completely, and you're like, okay, this is going into the ether now. But I think it's so cool to start that in the beginning of it, where your mind is like, okay, I'm here, I'm present, I'm settled, and it's almost like it's firing on all cylinders. And I think that's, if I really think about it, it's almost like awakening it and making it attuned into that kind of restful state where it can be hyper vigilant on, like, okay, what's happening on stage now? Like, are we, and I don't use tracks either. So that's kind of another one of my things is like, if something is really in a moment, like I might want to double it. Like I might want to, if we're leaning into the guitar solo and he's killing it, and then we might, move into this different syncopation section, I kind of want to be able to go there and flow into that. So that's kind of always been my thing too, is like get the mind in that restful but yet like firing on all cylinders moment. And it's doesn't happen all the time. But when it does happen, it's like, oh, you can't see my face right now, but it's a moment of like pure goddess blissful energy.
Yeah, but it's a practice, right? That
It's a
sounds
practice.
really
It's
great.
fully a practice.
I like that. So the book, by the way, which
Yes.
listeners may appreciate, is called Radical Acceptance, and I see that a 20th anniversary edition just came out.
Ooh,
Yeah, so I uh, I
acceptance.
should
Love it.
read it. I don't know why the title sort of makes me think, man, I accept myself. I'm okay though.
Nah! Let's go. You and I are both reading this. We start a book club.
I'm a fan of hers for sure, so I probably should. Yeah. All right. So tell me about your producer, co-writer, pal, bestie,
Oh, my
SJ
ride or
Jones.
die. um, I got her and I always say, how do we get so lucky in this lifetime, man? So Esjay Jones, South African born, now lives out in Cali in Joshua Tree. I met her through my management, and they were like, okay, do a Zoom and see if you guys connect even. And we did a Zoom, and as we joke, we're like, it was love at first musical sight. I said to her, listen, with this solo record, I want you, these are the topics, I feeling like that are bubbling up that I want to talk about. And she was like, okay, I hear you. And I was like, I think it's best you come and live with us. So she ended up coming and living with us for like 2 months. And I think that's, you can really hear it on this record, is you hear me coming from New York and finding, you know, my new terrain, and being that traveler, and traveling through my own kind of personal growth of, you know, from kind of going and being this like rock star, no kids, to, okay, mother, and how am I going to navigate that and balance that? And I kind of wanted her to see that happen in real time, and the new love that, you know, my husband and I have. And so it was cool. She was so open to doing that, and it was so magical to have her like on the ground. And I'd come into the kitchen in the morning and she'd have the guitar out, and like, you know, one of my kids would be just hanging with her, and it was like, you know, at the end of the day, those are like the sweetest moments. You know, I wanted my kids to be immersed in this, and I want people to feel that energy on the record. And I think you do. You know, I'm getting some amazing feedback, a lot from mothers, which has been so fucking cool, of them feeling like, hey, you don't just have to stop, you know, when you have a kid. Yes, it's hard, and yes, it's challenging at times to honestly be like, who am I now? And I found that hard in the beginning to say, like, who am I now, rock and roll wise, like even down to aesthetically and fashion. And so having SJ just so multi-talented and understanding kind of the concept, and this concept record of how I wanted to position myself now, the new iteration of Miss Velvet, it was just so powerful to have her here. And she really heard me. Honestly, she really heard me. And I think you hear it on the record.
Yeah, a lot of energy on the record
Yeah.
for sure, and it's cool that you're so overtly a mom. I think because you know, it is. I'm sure it's wonderful to hear women listen to someone like you and learn about your journey and how you're doing it, how you're dealing with it, and yeah, very cool. Yeah, I saw a clip of you and SJ. I was kind of trying to figure out who she was. I saw her in some pictures with the band. I'm like, well, I don't think
Oh
she's
yeah.
part of. Yeah, and then I saw you guys performing on a hilltop somewhere, and she opens her mouth along with you. I'm like, oh, she can sing
You're like,
too.
oh.
Yeah, she was playing guitar. It was really nice. She said she sounds seems clearly is very talented as well.
Yeah, she's so talented. And I think what's cool too is, again, it's like there's just no ego, you know, this time around. And I think it's really cool because, you know, we have the full band act, and then it's cool to have this acoustic act as well that her and I can kind of branch off and do. So it's just awesome to have these two acts that we can do, you know, for any kind of setting.
Oh yeah,
um and I think that's been something that her and I are like, why not? Like,
yeah,
so
yeah. Do you have like a kind of a separate? I mean, obviously there's some separation, but do you have a separate repertoire with her, or are they intertwined? Is it intertwined with what you're doing as with the band and on
so
the
some
Traveler
of
album?
it, yeah, some of it is, and some of it is like a stripped down acoustic version of some of the tracks, and then some we just go off and we'll do maybe like a bunch of covers. And you know, that's always a vibe. Like, we rocked up at this great venue called Malibu Aviator Nation, and we rocked out for like 30 minutes doing a bunch of covers, and it was just a vibe. It was a great time. So
That's cool.
it was cool. It's like, it's really cool that her and I can kind of just pivot and do whatever we need to do in, you know, getting on that stage.
Yeah. What
Yeah.
is your original inspiration for fashion, and how has it changed or evolved, I guess?
So that is like one of the biggies is when I guess a couple of years ago, everything was so everything had to do with leather and studs, and it was very showmany and extravagant, and and it had a lot of funk elements into it. And that was something that, again, I was, you know, looking at George and all of the heritage that that man has, and I was so inspired by it. And I was like, oh my god, it's colors, and it's just over the topness, and it's fucking epic. And I always had loved, like, oh my god, I want to do like the lace up leather pants with studs and jackets. And So that wardrobe itself is so fun and colorful. And then as I, gave birth to, my two babies, and now shifting into what is the next iteration of Miss Velvet, it was very bizarre. It was like I was going into my closet and looking through all these like unbelievable leather outfits and kilts and chains and studs, and I was like, I can't wear this. It's I can't put this on. And I was struggling. I was like, where's the light at the end of the tunnel here? Like, what am I going to wear that is going to be, that has the spirit of rock and roll? And am I pulling that from something just on the inside that still has androgynous feeling to it? And I remember a very pivotal moment. I was shooting the music video for Zumirez, and it's one of the tracks on the album. And I went into my closet and I saw this Vivienne Westwood suit. And she's a, she passed away now, but very important fashion designer, big in the punk movement, a complete brainiac in the sense of redefining sexuality for women in fashion. And she's kind of always been that forward thinker. And I walked into my closet and I saw this Vivienne Westwood suit, and I just looked at it and I was like, wait a minute. And I chucked on this suit, and I remember walking out into the set and I started singing the opening line of the song, and I felt so free in this suit, and I felt sexy, but no skin was showing. And at that moment, I just said, okay, here it is. Like, here is the evolution of Miss Velvet. I don't know what will happen after this record, but it felt like that's the next step. And I felt like, okay, I don't need to show my skin right now. And I just wasn't feeling that after both kids. And I wanted something that still made me feel powerful and sexy. And I don't know, the minute I put on that suit, the way it hung, the way it draped, I felt so good. I felt authentically sexy and powerful and cool in my own skin with that suit. So I think that was a huge moment. And it was like, they always say, like, when you're about to hit that eureka moment, everything feels like it's going into shambles. And I just remember having these very intense conversations with my management, being like, I do not know who I am. Like, I can't find it. I cannot find it in the fashion. And then being like, okay, take a minute, like, let's readjust. And I'm like, can't find it. Don't know who I am. And I think that also is very true, when you are a mother and you're coming out of that postpartum stage as well. And a lot of women talk about that. And I remember talking to my doula about that, and she goes, oh my God, it's completely normal.
Yeah. Just need a snazzy punk suit to snap you out of it.
Exactly. So it was a very big moment all around, where I felt like I was coming out of that, not just on the mother angle, but also coming out of something that I had been so used to wearing and trying to redefine myself. So it's really exciting that it's here, and I feel so good in it, and it's awesome.
Well, I'm glad it's my first exposure to you. It's a great look on you. And
Thank you.
It's also it's a funny story, kind of, because I'm imagining you like a mom, and you're like all this leather, and you're like, nah, I don't want my kids to see me wearing that now. So.
And I mean, it's so fabulous. And I still look at it, I'm like, it is so badass. I'm like, okay, archival for now. Archival moments for now.
Maybe you'll return to it.
Yeah, who knows?
And then what about as a performer, inspiration wise? I mean, clearly you touched on the George Clinton factor.
Yeah.
But I would imagine you had some things early on that really sparked you as a performer, and I'd love to know what those inspirations were.
I had the one biggie that I'll never forget is I sat down and someone showed me on YouTube a clip of Janis Joplin singing Summertime. And it still makes me emotional of like even talking about it. I just remember tearing up and my heart pounding really, really fast, and just having a moment sitting there and being young in my 20s and just saying, how is something so perfect yet unperfect? How is it so just raw and guttural and real, and it touched me, and I've never forgot. I never She is my idol, and I think everything she stood for and projected in that unapologetic, unperfect, perfect voice is something that I hold with me. And I think that's given me the strength to kind of follow with my own authentic voice. I've definitely had, moments in the past with people in the industry, coming to hear my shows and being like, too big a voice. We don't get it. Not the right time, not the right era. That was hard. That was definitely hard in the beginning. Um, but just sticking to it and watching her and watching those old clips again and again and again, and then watching my other Robert Plant. And I feel like both of those voices are genderless. They're like genreless almost when you really strip away everything. And I think those have always been my North Stars, those two voices.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of good words for Janis Joplin in describing your
Yeah.
feelings for her. And
Yeah.
it's funny early on in life, and I'm sure it's super common. People see the two of them, but I am a big fan of both voices and both
Yeah.
as performers. I certainly spend a lot more time, watching Robert Plant
Right.
do it, being a big fan of Led Zeppelin. But I always thought, wow, there's so much. They have so much in common. I don't hear people talk about it much, but they did have a lot in common. And I think you hit on one aspect that I hadn't really thought of, and it's sort of, I think you said, genderless sort of
Yeah.
sound that they had.
Yeah. And I think that is something that I've gotten a couple reviews, and I've gotten a couple shout outs between them and myself, and I'm like, okay, all right, if 5 people get it, 5,000 people get it, 5,000, etc. And I think that was also something that was really cool to see happen when I was on the road, with George. Is, I'd stand at my merch table, over like 150 shows night after night, and having these beautiful, beautiful fans, come up to me and give me I started, one of my guys at my merch table started taking videos of this, because it was like these fans were giving their testimonials just on the voice. And I think after so many years of it just being hard in the beginning and people not getting me, it was kind of just this beautiful, beautiful moment that I sometimes look back on those videos and I'm like, man, these people just felt something in real time that I was able to share with them. Um,
Music is great that way.
Music is, oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's the greatest.
So I read that among your favorite albums is
Yeah.
one of my favorites from when I was young. It's probably, if someone asked me,
Mm.
earliest, album influences, I would have named this one of the same ones. And it made me want to ask you what your favorite track is on Led Zeppelin 2.
Oh, I had Led Zeppelin 4, which is that's my all time. And I think a Traveler, my song Traveler, was kind of my going to California moment. And I think that was my biggest inspiration. I think the way Zeppelin almost tapped into folk, but it wasn't folk. It was just so them at that moment and had that out west feel. That was kind of, again, a big moment for me to find my going to California, and that became Traveler, the title track of the album.
Yeah, that's cool. That's cool.
Yeah.
Well, I might have misread. I thought, and they might have misprinted, but I thought I
Oh
read Led
shit.
Zeppelin 2.
Oh shit.
No, it's okay. I was gonna say
What's yours?
I was confident because I read it in an interview, although I may have misread it.
Oh
But
no.
I was gonna say, as I often do, I know you can't believe everything you read on the internet, but I read that.
Wait, what's your favorite off of two?
I was thinking as I wanted to ask you the question that's
Yeah.
such a tough question.
It's so tough.
Yeah, and but 4 maybe is easier. Maybe let me think about that for a second. Maybe Black Dog. It's tough though.
Love
That's
Black
tough
Dog.
too.
Love
That's really
Black Dog.
tough too.
I
Yeah.
mean, I just like, I feel like that body of work was just, it's like they were so confident in going to these like time changes and just like the experimentation, just element of like taking us fully on a journey and like switching it up even halfway through a song of, again, like a genre almost. It was just it's like, it's mind-blowing.
Yeah, nuts, nuts.
It's nuts.
I told some friends just yesterday that it's taken me many years, but I finally appreciate. I mean, I've always loved them, and there was much of my life like I don't understand why everybody doesn't appreciate this
Yeah, you're
brilliance.
just
But
like, how do you not think they are the greatest
I
band of
I
all
know,
time?
but I told my friends, and these are guys that are older than me, and they were like, one of them said, I like the first two albums, and then it just they actually heard him say everything sounds the same after that. But I didn't say anything, but
No.
what I did say was what, only recently in life did it just for some reason dawned on me like, okay, I can understand why some people aren't into them. Finally. But I still love them.
Oh my God. And I like, I just always feel like when I go back and I listen to their record, I'm just like, I feel like it's growing with me. I don't know, things just feel like they're so much more weighted now when I listen to them and lyrically, and I'm like, aha, like that's what he meant. Like
Back
yeah,
then, there's no telling. I mean, they were,
I know. No
especially the
telling.
lyricist. He's so young back then, but all
I
right.
know.
So I'm gonna wrap us up with some two or three left field questions. So are you ready?
Okay.
All right. So first one is, what is scaring you these days?
What's scaring me? I think not scaring, but definitely me trying to figure out, we're definitely looking at some 2024 bigger tours, and kind of how am I going to navigate that with both my kids? And it was very different going out on the road solo, but how am I going to navigate? And that's just a big, it's my big life, like, oh, how am I going to do this?
Yeah.
um I don't know, it's not like scary, but it's definitely in my mind constantly of like, okay, that's going to be the real initial like balance.
Yeah. That sounds scary to me.
Yeah, it's scary. Yeah, it's like, okay, it's fucking frightening.
All right, and I should have prefaced the first one or all of these with, if that they may or may not go anywhere for you, so don't
Okay.
feel compelled. But okay, and then the next one is, who do you want to be more like?
Who do I want to be more like? I'm gonna have to say my mother.
That's so
I just
sweet.
I know. I just watched her today, like calmly, patiently navigate something with both my girls, and I was like, "Yep, still have a long way to go." Just like,
Well, she has some
you know,
experience, right?
she definitely has some experience, and just she was so calm and just so, so loving and smart the way she handled something that just happened, right before I jumped on this interview, and I was like, "Yep, yep, that's why they're the OGs." Like,
Do you see any of your sister and yourself in your girls?
I do, which is hilarious. My sister was very, very precocious when she was younger, so
Genetics are hilarious.
it's hilarious. So my little one is doing things like, I'm like, oh my God, here we go. Full circle. Here we go.
That's great.
Yeah.
All right, and then who do you want to be less like?
Less like, oh, there's definitely my, one of my, I don't know. It's tricky because one of my grandmothers was very, and I want to say the word stubborn in some moments, but I don't know if this question it's exactly like that, because I've been told recently, like, oh, you're very stubborn about certain things, but only when it comes to the music. And so and I had mentioned this early in the interview, and I'm always kind of, wanting to explore that and ask myself, is it stubbornness, or is it a doggedness, or is it determination? And obviously there are moments where you're yes, you can't be stubborn about like certain ridiculous things, but I feel like as an artist, I feel like we have to be stubborn about some things. So I don't know if it's like I don't know if I fully answered that question. So I'm kind of like, it's a good stubborn and maybe not so good. So I don't know. I'm partial to that. I'm partial.
Well, it sounds like it serves you until it doesn't,
Yeah.
maybe.
Yeah. Maybe until it doesn't. Yeah.
All right. Well, I gathered that all things Miss Velvet can be found at
Yeah.
officialmissvelvet.com. All your socials, some great photographs.
Yes. And I'm really heavily on my Instagram, which is Miss_Velvet, and on my TikTok, official Miss Velvet. And that's where I do most of my posting and full conversations on DM with my fans.
Nice.
So yes, and Spotify, Apple Music, Deezer, Tidal, all the good stuff. The album is out.
You're everywhere. It's a great album. I haven't even had a chance to listen to the whole thing, but I like what I've heard so far. So best of luck to you, and thank you for spending time with me.
So much, Roberto. This was so beautiful. This was a beautiful conversation.
You're most welcome. It was my pleasure.
Okay, thanks, sweetheart. Such a good talk.
This episode of The Unstarving Musician was powered by Liner Notes. Learn from the hundreds of musicians and industry pros I've spoken with for The Unstarving Musician on topics such as marketing, songwriting, touring, sync licensing, and much more. Sign up for Liner Notes. Liner Notes is an email newsletter from yours truly in which I share some of the best knowledge gems garnered from the many conversations featured on The Unstarving Musician. You'll also be privy to the latest podcast episodes and Liner Notes subscriber exclusives. Sign up at unstarvingmusician.com/liner notes. It's free and you can unsubscribe at any time. If you do not yet have a website for your music, check out Bandzoogle. It was created to help musicians and bands build their website and manage direct-to-fan marketing and sales. Bandzoogle has amazing design options, a commission-free store to sell music, merch, tickets, and more, plus tools that can capture detailed fan data for you. Try it free at bandzoogle.com. Use the promo code ROBONZO, ROBONZO, to get 15% off your first year. Thank you for listening. You can leave us feedback, questions, comments, complaints at unstarvingmusician.com/feedback. If you enjoyed this podcast, please follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen. If you love this podcast, please visit unstarvingmusician.com/crowdsponsor to learn about the many ways of showing your love and support. Your support does indeed equal love. The series music you heard in this episode is New Gods Part 2 by yours truly. Find links for all the places to hear the full version with vocals by yours truly at robonzo.com. Find links for all the people and things talked about in this episode at unstarvingmusician.com. Peace, love, and a whole lot of gratitude.